On the night of our first wedding anniversary, my wife, Khloe, saved her ex-boyfriend's life. He had crashed the venue just moments before a homemade explosive device detonated in the main hall. I wasn't there to see it happen because I had been called into the hospital for an emergency surgery right as the party was starting. The next time I saw Khloe, she was unconscious on an operating table, her body a bloody wreck. Later, after the dust had settled, people asked her why she risked everything to save a man she supposedly had no ties to. She told the press, "My husband is a doctor who saves lives every day. He wouldn't want a cowardly wife who ran away." The public was touched by her statement. They called her a hero. But I knew the truth. When she had the chance to protect the person she claimed to love, she chose him. So, I decided to bow out quietly. A month later, I stood at a podium for a chaotic farewell ceremony for an international medical aid team. A reporter shoved a microphone in my face and asked, "Ethan, what is the one thing in your career you have absolutely no regrets about?" I looked directly into the camera lens, keeping my face completely neutral. Even knowing that my wife used her body to shield her old flame from a bomb blast, I still stood at the operating table and fixed her shattered bones. The reporter blinked, confused. "Ethan, are you sure you want to join this aid team? You're heading to a conflict zone in Africa." "I'm sure," I said. After I hung up the phone, I stared at the wallpaper on my screen. It was a photo of me in a tailored tuxedo, walking arm in arm with Khloe. We were both beaming, strolling down the aisle. But the woman in that photo was currently fighting for her life in the ICU because she had thrown herself on top of another man. A nurse knocked on the doorframe. "Ethan, your wife is awake." I stood behind the glass wall of the ICU room. I watched Khloe lying in the bed, as still as she had been for 3 days and nights. Burns covered half of her body. Her legs and torso were wrapped in heavy bandages. When I first saw her in the trauma bay, I almost didn't recognize her through the blood. 3 days ago, it had been our anniversary. Khloe had organized a massive, extravagant party at the biggest hotel in the city. I barely had a drink in my hand before my pager went off for a critical case. I left immediately. Moments after I drove away, a man wearing an explosive vest entered the hall, screaming about revenge. According to witnesses, Khloe didn't run. She saw her ex-boyfriend, Liam, and dragged him to the ground, covering him with her own body just as the vest detonated. Half an hour later, she was wheeled into my emergency room. I saw Liam standing near the ambulance bay, completely untouched, without a scratch on him. I pushed my emotions down, scrubbed in, and led the surgery to rebuild Khloe's crushed leg. It took 6 hours. When I finally walked out of the OR, the sun was coming up. A police officer handed me a tablet to review surveillance footage recovered from the hall. It was the only camera that hadn't been destroyed. The timestamp was 10 minutes before the explosion. In the grainy video, I saw Liam in a black suit, pinning Khloe against a corridor wall. There was no audio, but I could read his lips clearly. "Khloe, I know you're married," he said, "but I want one last moment." He took her hand and placed it on his chest. "Does your heart still beat fast for me?" Then he leaned in and kissed her. She didn't push him away. She didn't struggle. She leaned into it. After watching that clip, fresh from saving her life, I sat on the cold floor of the hospital hallway and wept. The man she was willing to die for wasn't me. When the nurses had first wheeled her in, they thought she was a hero. "Ethan, she got hurt protecting you, right? You have to save her, one of the younger nurses had pleaded, tears in her eyes. In that moment, I realized I didn't care if Liam lived with regret or guilt. I just felt a sharp, twisting pain in my gut. Khloe's recovery was slow. I called in favors and got the best dermatologist in the state to handle the skin grafts for her face. He did incredible work. You could barely tell anything had happened. Her back, however, was a map of angry red burn scars. When she was finally well enough to come home, she hugged me tight. "Ethan, I was so scared I'd never see you again. I thought I'd be broken forever." She laughed a little, a weak, raspy sound. "Lucky for me, my husband is a genius orthopedist. You gave me my legs back." She reached out to touch my face. "How can I ever thank you?" I didn't move. I looked at her perfectly healed face, and she felt like a stranger. "I'm tired," I said, pulling away when she leaned in for a kiss. "I've been working non-stop." "It's been hard on you," she said softly. That night, lying next to her, I couldn't sleep. Khloe was tossing and turning, caught in a nightmare. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Liam," she mumbled in her sleep. I bit the inside of my cheek to keep from making a sound. The pain in my chest was getting worse. Khloe didn't know that I had found an old Polaroid photo hidden inside a book in her study a few months ago. It was from high school. It showed her and Liam at a track meet, young and happy. She had written his name on the back. At the time, I thought it was just a keepsake from her youth. I didn't pry. I didn't know why they had broken up, but I figured he was just a memory. Now I knew better. He was the love of her life. From 17 to 27, he was the only one who mattered. I was just the placeholder. In the drawer of my nightstand, a printed divorce agreement was waiting. It was time. The next morning, Khloe limped into the kitchen, leaning heavily on the counter. She had cooked breakfast. "Ethan, try this," she said, smiling. I sat down, my hand hovering near my pocket, where the papers were. Suddenly, there was a frantic knock at the door. It was her personal assistant. "Khloe, you left your phone at the hospital. I brought it by," the assistant said. Khloe took the phone. She glanced at the screen, and the color drained from her face. "Honey, I have to go. Emergency at the office. Enjoy breakfast. I'll have my assistant drive you to work." I didn't say a word. I just watched her. Her assistant tried to stop her. "Khloe, you can't drive. Your leg isn't healed. Let me take you." "Get out of my way," Khloe snapped. Panic was written all over her face. She realized she had shouted, but she didn't apologize. She grabbed her keys and limped out the door. I looked down at my own phone. I pulled up Liam's social media. 15 minutes ago, he had posted a status. It was a selfie taken at the top of the observation tower downtown, the bungee jumping platform. He looked miserable, tears streaking his face. The caption read, "I just survived a bombing with the love of my life, yet she chose to let go and find someone new. With my fear of heights, what else is there to be afraid of? Goodbye, my love." My grip on the spoon tightened until my knuckles turned white. Khloe was rushing out because she thought he was going to jump. The last time I saw Liam at the hospital, he didn't even recognize me behind my surgical mask. He asked me for updates as if he were family. Khloe was proving with every action what real love looked like to her. She would break her own heart for every tear he shed. My phone rang. It was the Dean of Medicine. "Ethan, the roster for the Africa Medical Aid Mission is finalized. You're the most qualified candidate, so I'm making you the lead." "When do we leave?" I asked. "The 3rd of next month. It's a 2-year deployment," the dean said, sounding hesitant. "Ethan, you just got married a year ago. Are you sure about this? It's a dangerous assignment. I looked up at the ceiling, my eyes burning. Dean, saving lives is my job. There are more important things in the world than my marriage. Right after I hung up, a text came in from Khloe. Honey, big crisis at work. I won't be home tonight. Then I refreshed Liam's social media. A new photo. It showed Khloe sitting across from him at a restaurant. She was cutting up his steak for him. The caption, "There is a fool willing to drive 2 hours just to cut my meat for me. She says I'm more important than the finest steak." In the background of the photo, I recognized the view. It was the restaurant where we had spent Valentine's Day. I had told Khloe specifically how much I loved the pepper steak there. I deleted her text message without replying. The next day was my 29th birthday. Khloe didn't come home. A storm had rolled in, thunder shaking the windows and rain hammering against the roof. I sat alone at the dining table with a small, store-bought cake. I lit a single candle. "Happy birthday, Ethan," I whispered to the empty room. I blew out the candle. For the past 7 years, since we met as students, she had always made a big deal of my birthday. We had gone from campus sweethearts to a married couple. I never doubted her. But then I remembered our wedding night. She had insisted I wear a plain white dress shirt with the top 2 buttons undone. I thought it was just a preference. I obliged. That was the only time I saw her look at me with genuine, overwhelming emotion. Now I realized that Liam's favorite outfit in college was a white shirt with the top buttons undone. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking for him in me. That same afternoon, I got the call. Khloe had been in a car accident on the highway. Her right foot, the one I had just operated on, was too slow to hit the brake. When I arrived at the ER, it was chaos. Multiple fractures, severe crush injury to the right leg, a colleague told me. "We need to operate now." I went to her bedside. She was unconscious, a gash on her forehead. I assessed the leg. It was destroyed. The bone was shattered beyond repair. Even I couldn't fix this. A nurse handed me her personal effects. Her phone screen lit up with a message from Liam. "Khloe, the thunder is scaring me. Please come back. Noah misses you too." That message must have distracted her while she was driving. When Khloe woke up, her right leg was gone. We had to amputate below the knee. The media went wild. They spun a tragic narrative. Entrepreneur Khloe, rushing home to celebrate her husband's birthday, loses leg in storm crash. The comments online were sickeningly positive. "What a love story," people wrote. "She risked her life saving a stranger. Now this? She's an angel." I wish I had a wife like that. I stood in the hospital room reading the comments and laughed until I choked. "Ethan, my leg hurts," Khloe whispered. I walked to the bed. "You'll need a prosthetic. I've already contacted a specialist in Germany." Guilt flickered in her eyes. "I didn't mean to miss your birthday, sweetheart. You don't need to explain," I interrupted. "I understand everything." A month later, she was discharged. I helped her stand on her new prosthetic leg for the first time. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Honey, I don't know what I'd do without you." I took a step back. I reached into my bag and placed the divorce papers on the table. "Khloe, let's get a divorce." Her smile froze. "What?" "I know about you and Liam," I said calmly. "I know about the explosion. I know you threw yourself on him. It's clear he means more to you than I ever did." I paused. "And that child, Noah? I know he's Liam's son with his ex-wife Nancy. He's not yours. I've known for a while, I just pretended not to." Khloe stared at me. She looked terrified. "We're just old classmates. How do you know about the child? Are you crazy?" I'm not the one who's crazy, I said. She lunged forward, grabbing me in a desperate hug. She squeezed so hard that her amputation site started to bleed through the bandages. You are my husband! I saved him out of instinct. I would have done it for anyone. Please, Ethan, don't misunderstand. The only person I love is you. She grabbed the papers and tore them into shreds. I won't sign. I won't! She didn't know that when she signed her discharge paperwork earlier that morning, I had slipped the real divorce agreement into the stack. She had already signed it. A few days later, trying to prove her devotion, Khloe got a tattoo over the burn scars on her back. She showed it to me proudly. It was a silhouette of a boy in a white shirt. See, she said, it's you. Proud and radiant. I recognized the silhouette immediately. It was traced from that Polaroid of Liam. And look, she said, pointing to another part of the ink. A tall pine tree, for you. We're good now, right? She held my face. I felt nothing but disgust. Sure, I lied. Just promise me you won't bring up the divorce again. She smiled. I promise. Good, I said, because we won't be seeing each other for a long time. The day she went to her first rehab session was the day I left. I was at the airport, checking my luggage. I grabbed a coffee and turned around to find Liam standing there. He was wearing a casual suit, looking smug. Ethan, right? He smirked. I have to admire you. You knew your wife saved me, yet you still operated on her. Very noble. A doctor doesn't choose who gets to live, I said flatly. He leaned in close. Don't think that tattoo is about you, by the way. The day I threatened to jump, she freaked out. She said she'd raise my son, Noah, as if he were ours. He laughed. If you want her, she's all yours. Broken leg and all. It should have hurt, but it didn't. If you like her so much, I said, you can have her. An officer in uniform approached me. Dr. Ethan, the transport for the medical team is ready. I pinned my ID badge to my chest and walked toward security without looking back at Liam. While I was in the air, Khloe was enduring hell at the rehab center. The physical therapy was grueling. Every step felt like her bones were breaking all over again. But she kept going, motivated by the memory of the explosion. In her mind, she had saved Liam because she couldn't bear to lose him again. It was a reflex born of old love. But as she lay in bed that night, alone, she had a dream. She dreamt of her childhood. She had been the neglected daughter, punished by her stepfather, forced to stand in the sun for hours. In the dream, young Liam had come to her with a cold drink, caring for her. They had been inseparable, until the day he left. She remembered the breakup vividly. Liam had told her he was going abroad. He was cold, calculated. We have to break up, he had said. I don't want to be stuck in the past. He had walked away, leaving her crying in the rain. She later found out he left because he discovered she wasn't the primary heiress to her family's fortune. He had cut his losses. Years later, she met me. I was the opposite. I was steady. I was safe. I brought her warm milk. I took care of her. She had thought she was happy. But when Liam came back, that old toxic spark reignited. A few weeks after I left, Liam visited her at the rehab center. He was in a good mood. He sat on her bed and put his arm around her. Khloe, he said, his voice low. There's a limited edition Patek Philippe watch at the auction tonight. It would go perfectly with that suit you bought me. You should buy it for me. It'll make me feel like you're right there with me. Khloe looked at him. For the first time, the image of the perfect first love cracked. He was asking for a watch while she was learning to walk again. Just then, her assistant burst into the room. He looked pale. "Khloe, we just got word. Ethan is in Africa." Khloe shoved Liam away. "What?" "He signed up for a UN humanitarian mission in the Ebola quarantine zone. It's a secret deployment. He's already there." Khloe felt the blood drain from her face. "No. Why would he go there? It's a death sentence." Liam rolled his eyes. "He's probably doing it for the money. Or the fame. Trying to make a name for himself so he can come back and act like a hero." Khloe turned on him, eyes blazing. "What do you know about him? He could die?" She started panic searching on her phone. The fatality rate for the virus was terrifyingly high. It was a horrific way to die. "Get me his flight details," she screamed at her assistant. "Khloe, stop," Liam said, grabbing her arm. "Didn't you promise to stay with me? Noah needs a mom." Something inside her snapped. She shoved Liam so hard he fell to the floor. She ignored his shouting and limped out of the room as fast as her prosthetic would allow. She fell in the hallway, detached the fake leg, smashed it against the wall in frustration, and then dragged herself up to keep going. She drove to our house. It was dark. She ran inside, calling my name. She checked the closets. They were empty. My watch box was empty. My desk was clear. There was nothing left of me. She sat by the liquor cabinet and drank until she passed out. She left me voicemail after voicemail. "Ethan, I'm sorry, I was confused. I made a mistake. Please come back. I'll give you everything. Just come back." The next morning, she woke up to a notification. It was an email from me. "The divorce agreement is effective immediately. Attached was the lawsuit." She saw the date. She realized I had tricked her into signing it. And then she saw the news. Her assistant ran in with a tablet. "Khloe, look at this." It was the interview I gave before leaving. The clip of me saying, "Even knowing my wife shielded her old flame, I still fixed her bones." The story had gone viral. The public opinion flipped instantly. Khloe wasn't a hero anymore. She was a cheater who abandoned her savior husband. The company, stock, was plummeting. "Get the jet ready," Khloe ordered, her voice shaking. "I'm going to Africa." Liam, who had followed her to the house, grabbed her shoulders. "Are you insane? Listen to me. The stock is crashing. We need to do damage control. We can say Ethan was abusive or that we're getting married. We have to spin this." Khloe looked at him and laughed. It was a bitter, ugly sound. "Is that all you care about? Money? Status?" She slapped him. Hard. Then she kicked him. "Get out! You ruined everything! Ethan is my husband. He's the only one who ever truly loved me." She wiped a trickle of blood from her nose. The stress was taking a toll on her recovering body, and headed for the door. She was going to find me. When I landed in Africa, the heat hit me like a physical blow. The air smelled of dust and burning plastic. A local guide, Joseph, met me on the tarmac. "Dr. Ethan, over here." We drove past piles of bodies wrapped in plastic sheeting. The situation was far worse than the news had reported. I didn't waste time. I threw my bags in the tent and started working. I opened my medical kit. Inside was a set of high-precision surgical tools Khloe had given me when I became chief physician. It was the only thing of hers I hadn't burned. The days blurred into nights. I worked in the quarantine zone, treating patients who were bleeding from their eyes and mouths. It was hell on earth, but it was simple. There were no lies here, just life and death. I made friends with the local kids. They had never seen an Asian doctor before. They touched my lab coat with dirty, curious fingers. One little boy, who was an orphan, started following me around. I gave him clean water and food. One night, during a torrential downpour, I performed a lumbar puncture on a convulsing girl in a mud hut. When the test came back negative for the virus, the entire medical team cheered. It was the first win we'd had in weeks. I found peace there. The locals left mangoes outside my tent as thanks. My pockets were full of colorful stones the children gave me. 2 years passed. I survived. I didn't get infected. When my tour was over, I was selected to receive an award back home. As I packed my bags, the little orphan boy clung to my leg, sobbing. I knelt down and gave him the surgical kit Khloe had bought me. "Use these to save people," I told him. Back in the city, the award ceremony was a blur of flashing lights. I gave my speech. I talked about the resilience of the human spirit. As I was leaving the venue, I saw Khloe's assistant waiting for me. He looked older, tired. He was holding a thick paper envelope. "Ethan," he said quietly, "Khloe followed you to Africa." I stopped. "What?" "She came right after you left. She wanted to find you, but she contracted the virus within a week. She didn't make it." I stood frozen on the sidewalk. "She couldn't get to you because of the quarantine lines," the assistant continued. "She died in a field hospital about 20 miles from where you were stationed." He handed me the envelope. "She left this for you. She told the court that she signed the divorce papers under duress so that the divorce wouldn't go through. Technically, you were still married when she died. She left everything to you." "And Noah?" I asked. "She found out he wasn't hers. She cut Liam out of everything." I opened the envelope. Inside were deeds to properties, stock transfers, and a title for a small, private island in the southern hemisphere. The date on the island's purchase deed was our last wedding anniversary. There was a note. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I was a coward. I'm coming to bring you home. This time, I'll keep my promises." I remembered a conversation we had 7 years ago, sitting under a tree on campus. I had told her my dream was to buy a hidden island and spend a long summer there with the woman I loved. I looked up at the sky. It was a clear, blue day. "Summer is here," I whispered. And for the first time in years, I smiled.